Well, God bless you. You know, wisdom is something that we must continue to learn over the course of our entire lives. Wisdom is not something you learn simply because you were taught it, or you studied it, or you practiced it, or even maybe experienced it occasionally. Learning wisdom happens when all those different components work together and consistently within your life. I'm going to be talking a little bit about that in this teaching. So check this out. I'll be back shortly. I want you to turn to Proverbs chapter 3. Proverbs chapter 3 and verses 13 through 15. Basically just going to be reading through some scriptures until we get to the passages that we want to be at. So please make mental notes as we read. Just make a side note, a mental note, a sticky pad note, whatever note, because everything that we're reading is going to somehow find its way right back into the teaching this morning. So let me know when you have Proverbs 3, verses 13 through 15. I dare not go on without you. Okay. All right. That sounds good to me. Look at what he says here in the 13th verse. He says, happy is the man that finds wisdom. I think we did a good job last week of unpacking the fact that wisdom has to be found. It has to be searched out. It's not that wisdom is hiding. It's just that many times our life is so cluttered, we can't find it, even though wisdom is trying to make herself obvious and available. But it says, happy is the man or the person that finds wisdom. When was the last time you were happy? When was the last time you were happy without having to have external fluids, liquids, or things to feel good? Happy is the man that finds wisdom and the man that gets understanding. Now watch this. The Bible is making a case for wisdom and how valuable wisdom is and how much it is to be desired in these next verses. For the merchandise. Anytime you hear merchandise, and those of you that like to shop, you know when you hear merchandise, that's talking about something that's going to be good, merchandise. He says, for the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. In other words, where does it weigh? Where does the value of wisdom weigh in your life concerning some of these other things, these other tangible things that make you look good, but may not always cause you to be good? And he says here in the 15th verse, she is more what? Precious than rubies. The Bible's making a case now. And all the things that you can desire are not to be compared to her. Again, the Bible is making a case for the value of wisdom and how we should see wisdom as being more precious. Remember, get wisdom. That's the first thing and the foremost thing. And right now he's building up a case to show us that our desire should be for wisdom. Now, turn to Proverbs chapter 2. Proverbs chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. That's the chapter in front of chapter 3. And I want you to begin at the first verse. My son, if you will receive my words and hide my commandments or my instructions with you. Look at the second verse now. So that you do what? Incline. Incline. Have you ever been to the gym? Incline. There's a button that says incline. That means go up. He says, so that you incline your what? Ear unto wisdom. And look at these next words. And apply your heart to understanding. Again, apply your heart. Are you understanding that because wisdom is so valuable, you don't just get it by accident? It doesn't just, I taught that lesson, it doesn't just happen organically. There are things that must be invested into it in order for it to give back to you. And when he says, apply your heart, he's saying this is not something that we can just do with our bodies. See, have you noticed that we've taught ourselves to do things with our bodies that our heart is not into? You can go to work with your body and your heart not be in it. You can go home to your spouse in body and your heart not be in it. You can do a lot of things with your body, and if you're not careful, your body will fool you and make you think you are fully invested in something that your heart is not into. And he's saying that in order for us to tie into this wisdom, it cannot just be my body. That means I can't just be reading scriptures with my eyes and my heart ain't in it. I can't just be showing up to church in body, but my heart ain't in it. I can't just be talking the talk, singing the song. My heart has to agree with everything you see me doing out here. My heart has to be invested in order for me to get wisdom and understanding. Third verse. Look at the manifestations of the heart. This is how you know. Third verse, he says, yes, if you cry after knowledge and lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as hid treasure. Are you seeing all of these action words? The Bible's making a case, Deke. The Bible's making a case for wisdom. And he's trying to make us understand that we're in a generation where we want everything easy. We want to reap the spoils and the rewards of something just because I showed up. Just because I went there and just because I did this and I did that, reward me for just because I showed up, wherever that might be. We want something for nothing. And wisdom is saying this morning, you're going to have to do, he said, wisdom is saying, I will give you as much as you give me. If you cry after knowledge, if you lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek her like you do other stuff, if you search for her like what you think is valuable and what you think is important. Look at the fifth verse. Then means after you have applied your heart in the way the scriptures just told you. Not before, not during, then means after. Are you with me? Then shall you understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. 6th verse. For the Lord gives wisdom. Out of his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. Ooh, look at this one, 7th verse. He lays up sound wisdom for the righteous. You know what that means? Whatever you face, he's already put wisdom to the side so you can know what to do with it and how to handle it. How many of you save money? Don't matter how much, but you put a little something aside. Why do you lay up that money? Because I might need it for an unexpected interruption in my life. He's saying when I put wisdom up and I lay it up, I've already got the answer and the strategy for your challenge waiting on you for those unexpected interruptions in your life. So this is what he's saying. This is the remedy for panic. He's saying, you know, most of the time when something hit us, we get surprised and we think that nobody, because we're surprised, God is surprised, and I wasn't planning, and we panic. He's saying, you don't have to panic. These are the pills. This is the antidote, Nico, to where you don't have to panic, because whatever shows up, God has already gotten wisdom stored for that unique situation. He's already got it. No need for you to unravel and for you to become discombobulated and for you to get confused and for you to start talking about, I just don't know what's going on in my life. You don't know, but he already knew, and that's why he put the answer, the remedy to your problem over here on the side. So that not that you won't ever go through anything, but that you will always know how to go through it and what to do with it and how to handle it should it occur. Now, go to Proverbs 8. Proverbs 8. And I didn't even finish the rest of that verse. It was good, but I didn't finish it. But you wrote it down, so you can go back to it later. Proverbs 8, verses 1 through 5. This is where we want to buy some real estate this morning. Do you have Proverbs 8, verse 1? Cool. Now, we established that the Bible made a case for why we should desire wisdom. And now a transition happens where the Bible is now making a case to show us how bad wisdom desires us. Now, I already told you, remember, all those scriptures was the Bible making a case for wisdom and why we should desire it. Now a shift happens where the Bible is making a case to how much wisdom desires us. When there's a desire between two people, magic happens. It's one thing when one desires the other, but the other one don't desire, then you have friction. But when two people both have a mutual desire, whoo-wee. So not only are we to desire wisdom, but here we see where wisdom desires us just as much as we should desire it, because when both mutual desires collide, explosive things can happen. First verse. Does not wisdom cry? That translation says cry out. These are questions. Does not wisdom cry out? Now remember earlier it said you should cry out for wisdom. Now it's saying wisdom crying out for you. I'm excited all by myself. And does not wisdom cry out and understanding put forth her voice? Look at the second verse. She stands in the top of the high places, by the way in the places of the paths. She cries out at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in of the doors. What that's telling us is wisdom is everywhere you are. Wisdom is everywhere you are. Fourth verse, unto you, O men, or women, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. In other words, wisdom is saying, I'm intentional about who I'm speaking to. I'm not just screaming aimlessly out into the air. When I speak, I'm speaking to something. And more importantly, when I speak, I'm speaking to someone. He says, my voice is to the sons of man. Look at the fifth verse. Oh, now if I said this, you would get mad, but read this. Oh, you simple, that means simple-minded, understand wisdom. And you what? You fools, be you of an understanding heart. What does the sixth verse say? What's the first word? Your translation, oh, all of them good. Listen, hear. Do what? Hear. Do what? Hear. Do what? Hear. Didn't Proverbs 2 tell you, incline your ear, for I will speak of what? And the opening of my lips shall be right things. I want to borrow your time just for a moment this morning, and I want to talk to you from a very simple yet difficult to accomplish, yet not impossible subject. Learning wisdom. Learning wisdom. Again, learning wisdom. Learning, it's continual. I can never say I arrive because I've reached certain levels. It's a continual, lifelong class you never graduate from, yet you should be increasing. In fact, you should be able to look back just from last week and see where you have increased in wisdom when we get this principle down. It's something we're learning. I didn't learn it, I'm learning it. Now, I got to bore you with a couple of definitions, and then we'll pick up. Now, I want you to understand, learning means to gain skill. Pay attention to this. To gain knowledge or skill through being taught or studying or practicing or experiencing something. So what the definition is telling us is you don't just learn wisdom because somebody taught it to you for 4 weeks. You don't just learn wisdom because you studied it out for years. You don't just learn wisdom because you have practiced certain principles. You don't just learn wisdom because you have experienced a few things here and there occasionally. What it's saying is to learn wisdom requires all of those separate components working together at the same time in your life. I don't just get it because you taught it to me. or because I studied, or because I practiced it, or because I had some experiences here and there. All of those things have to be working and showing up in my life, operating like a well-oiled machine for me to really learn, for me to enroll in the process of learning wisdom. I almost said learn, but that would mean you could get it once and then you got it. But for me to enroll in the class, there are components that I have to be intentional about in making sure that they are all working and that nothing is misfiring. This is where he said you have to apply your heart. Some of us, you ain't about to do nothing beyond your comfort zone. And that's why you still make the same decisions. But you have to be actively involved in the process, fully present and engaged in making sure that when class starts, you are accounted for. And the thing is the class in this Learning Institute is not in a building, and it doesn't have a chalkboard. It's called life. And life is going to keep happening around you the same way, and you are yet required to do different things, even though your life is giving you the same thing, because I need wisdom to make my life work for me. And last week I gave you a basic definition of wisdom, and it's a good definition, but the basic definition was Holy Spirit teaching you what to do with what you've been taught and how to use what you know. But I want to go further in the definition this time, because the Greek word for wisdom is Sophia. S-O-P-H-I-A, Sophia. And check out what that means. It means insight into your reality that goes beyond what can humanly be explained. Look at this again. Wisdom in the Greek, it means insight into your reality that goes beyond what can humanly be explained. It also means skill or divine intelligence. That's some powerful stuff, because it moves me and you into the supernatural realm of understanding, where I don't just see what's facing me, I see into it. And not only do I see into it, Paula, but I also have the skill through divine intelligence how to attack it in ways that I could not attack it if I did not have wisdom. So use your imagination for a moment. Can you imagine having this kind of wisdom at work on a daily basis in your life? Good God Almighty. Man, our biggest problem, I would have to preach on pride every Sunday. Y'all know I'm telling you. I don't know about you. I would have to preach on pride every Sunday. Can you imagine with me having the skill set to know how to deal with everything life throws at you, whether good, come on, Michelle, or bad? I don't even want to talk about the bad right now, because the bad is the problem. Have you ever become so preoccupied swatting at the bad, you didn't realize how much good life was trying to give you? It's not the bad that I really need to talk about with wisdom, because the truth is, Life has tried to give a lot of us several opportunities that were good and several good moments that we either didn't recognize or we blew because we didn't have the wisdom to know what to do with it. How many good opportunities have you missed because you did not have the wisdom from God how to recognize the opportunity and then what to do with the opportunity that was presented to you? See, I don't know about you. I'm getting too old to keep making mistakes that set me back 5 and 10 years. And so wisdom, it's imperative that wisdom is learned, that we enroll in the school and we're willing to pay the tuition and not expire before we get the degree, which we won't get. So you just enroll forever. We got to learn it. So the first step involved with learning wisdom is we have to familiarize ourselves with the term wisdom. Because be honest, wisdom is not a word we use a lot. In fact, very seldom do we even use the word wisdom when referencing ourselves, which is a problem. Because that implies that you don't really think you're wise. We normally, when we use the word wisdom, we're referring to everybody but us. We're referring to somebody we know that we think is wise, or we're referring to somebody with gray hair. I talked about that last week. And we deputize them with wisdom because they got gray hair. And then, or because you know somebody who's old, and because they 88 and a half years old, you say that they're wise, or grandma wise, and grandpa wise, and Uncle Pete, he wise, and Uncle Pete don't know how to do nothing but drink a fifth of liquor. But because he old, Uncle Pete wise and Uncle Pete smart, or if we're watching a movie where some weird dude who speaks very philosophically, we deputize him with the title of being wise or wisdom. But very seldom does the word wisdom show up in our general conversation. I said general conversation in regards to the decisions we make concerning our lives. So if wisdom is not showing up in my conversation in regards to the decisions I make concerning my life, it's a good chance I'm not applying wisdom in my life. And if we just get right down to the nitty-gritty of it, most people look at wisdom as an outdated word. It's antiquated, it's old, nobody uses that today. And so it's become spooky and sometimes scary and mystic. You know, wisdom. Who uses that in the 20s? Wisdom. It's a spooky word, and I'm struggling with that because how is it that the Bible dedicates a whole book to wisdom? And if that wasn't enough, there are songs composed in the Bible that were meant to be sang in celebration of wisdom, Job 28. So if the Bible celebrates wisdom so exuberantly, and we are believers of the Bible, B-I-B-L-E, basic instructions before leaving earth, then why are we so unfamiliar with wisdom that Jesus himself said the children of this world are wiser than the children of God? Luke 16:8. It's in there. And for Jesus to say the children of the world are wiser than the children of God, it made me say something's wrong with this picture. Why would Jesus say that and exalt heathens above his own children? How did we become so estranged from wisdom when we live supposedly by a Bible that celebrates wisdom in more than one place? How? This is not just any book, it's the Bible. Basic instructions before leaving earth. I'm supposed to live my life by this book while on earth, and yet that book celebrates a wisdom that I am unfamiliar with. What is going on? So me being a thinker and thinking about stuff, sometimes I think more than I should. But in this case, it worked out and it panned out for the best, because I said, now, it must be something going on behind the scenes. And so I began to ask myself some questions, and I'll let you in, and I'll just think my question out loud. And you ask yourself this, because it makes a lot of sense. Could it be that the enemy has fought us our whole life trying to keep us away from wisdom, because he knows without wisdom we're easy prey? Can I unpack that? He knows without wisdom we're easy prey. So I'm going to make it my duty to try to keep them estranged, alienated from wisdom. If I'm the devil, I realize I don't really have to attack you. I don't have to sick my demons on you. Because if I can just keep you away from wisdom, you'll just keep deciding your own self into a bad place. I don't have to touch you because your unwise decisions will touch you for me. Here, when I was growing up, about teenagers especially, we used to do what we call pickup ball. It's you go out to the park and you play basketball, but you call it pickup ball because you just pick up players, whoever around. They don't have to be good or not. You just pick up and you play. So we out there playing pickup ball, and it was always at least two people out there at the park who really wasn't there because they could play. They was just there to make the teams even. And you would know this person because when they got the basketball, you could tell they had no idea what to do with it. So those of us who could play, we would sit back and we would watch them. And when they got the ball, we would say, hey, don't even check them. You don't need to guard them. Just let them dribble, because they'll dribble out of bounds. They'll turn it over. And by the way, just stand back and let them shoot, because they're going to hit an air ball anyway. They'll just give you an alley-oop, and you can see. In other words, we knew that we didn't have to exert any effort to defend them because they were their own worst opponent, because they had no idea what to do with what they were given. And that's what the enemy is saying to some of us in the body of Christ. He's saying, I don't have to really do anything to you because your decisions have become your worst enemy. And if that weren't enough, the enemy's sitting back saying, see, now that whole the devil made me do it makes sense, because the devil ain't as active as you think. You are active, actively deciding wrong. And so the enemy's sitting back and he's saying, I'm not even concerned about you as a child of God having more power than I do, because in the absence of wisdom, you won't know how to use the power you have anyway. Now, if I wasn't afraid of taking y'all too far this morning, I would even talk to you about how we use a lot of things that are traditionally taught to fight against the devil that are not even biblically true. But I'm not going to go there for fear of you calling me an apostate. Deke say, I'm not giving it to you, Deke. You can't have it today. You can't have it. You want it, but you can't have it today. It's too much for you. Not only that, would we not know how to use the power we have, but check this out. Without wisdom, you'll use the power you have against yourself. How many times have we found ourselves praying about it when we should have been up doing something about it? How many times you find yourself trying to fast when you should be eating? How many times have you found yourself sitting around trying to read scripture when you should be trying to do the scripture? When have you said, I'm talking about using the power against yourself. How many times, let me bring a natural form, how many times have you heard stories of people who have bought weapons to protect their family from the dangers lurking outside, only to find later on down the line somebody in the house has been killed by the same weapon the family bought because somebody in the house didn't know how to use the weapon that they had? And it's happening to us in a spiritual sense because we have the power to make decisions, don't we? But outside of wisdom, it has been our own decisions that has caused us to self-assassinate, self-sabotage, and self-destruct because we are making unwise decisions every day that take us further and further away from an intimate relationship with God, and you're continuing to do you as usual simply because you don't see the negative results immediately. You don't realize the destructive tendencies of the choices you make. Notice I didn't say I'm further from God. No, man, God is everywhere and can be even in you. But I don't care about none of that if I don't have intimacy. I can be sitting right beside you, Michelle, and be close, but not intimate. Do you hear what I'm saying? God is everywhere. You right, buddy. And I'm glad you know that. But are you intimate with him, or are you deciding little by little in ways that keep moving you further and further out of the intimate pocket with God? Because wisdom has to be embraced. I taught you last week in Proverbs. I cannot embrace nothing that ain't close to me. And so we have to create room or a place for wisdom to exist in our life before we can ever learn from it. If it's not welcome, why in the world would it teach you? See, if you're inviting me to your house, I got some good stuff this morning through the Holy Spirit for y'all this morning. Y'all ready to learn some stuff? Let me just say this before we go a little deeper. If I need a place to stay, and I know you got 5 people living in your house, but you got a 5-bedroom house, and I know all the places are occupied, but you know I need a place to stay, what am I going to appreciate more? You don't have no space, but what? I'll make room for you. I'll make room for you. I really don't. I legitimately have all rooms taken. Everybody's living everywhere, but I will make room for you. And that's what wisdom is saying. Man, who don't have a lot going on? But wisdom is saying, if you know I'm precious, if you know I should be desired above all else that you chase behind that has not made you any wiser yet, make room for me and show me what I mean to you, and I'll teach you all the mysteries of heaven. I'll teach you everything you need to know to get through life, good, bad, or indifferent. In fact, your life will level out because it won't be bad, it won't be good, it'll just be life because wisdom will keep you level and balanced. I can't keep vacillating. Well, it's bad, it's good. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to be bipolar. That's trying to operate with 2 thought processes at the same time. I need wisdom to make life just life. I need wisdom to make life become more simple, but I gotta make room for it. Yes, I got a lot of people living in every room and the couch is occupied, but I'll make room for you because I need you more than I need everything else. It's that simple. So Proverbs 8:1 starts talking about the desperation of wisdom and how bad she wants you. The Bible says wisdom, look at the verbs, wisdom cries out and understanding raises her voice. What is it saying? Wisdom is trying her best to overtalk all of that other nonsense that's speaking to you in your life. Wisdom is crying out loud, and understanding is raising her voice because wisdom is trying to overtalk all of the other nonsense that's speaking to you in your life. Nonsense. It means it don't make no sense. The stuff we listen to. Half the stuff we listen to just to kill time. But my friend, you're not just killing time, you're killing you. How much wiser are you after you gave an hour and a half to it? Wisdom, I'm trying to speak. Here's the revelation. I'm trying to speak over all the other things speaking. I'm trying to speak over it. I'm speaking from a higher place. You're going to have to come up higher. Or do you love listening low? Wait a minute. If wisdom has a voice, then it becomes my responsibility to make sure my life is not so cluttered with so many other voices that I cannot hear what they're saying. Wisdom and understanding. They're born out of the same womb, saying the same thing. Understanding becomes wisdom's echo. Is my life so cluttered by so many other voices, I can't hear wisdom even though wisdom is screaming at the top of her lungs? Which makes me ask you this: are you postured to hear wisdom? Posture deals with two things: form and attitude. So we know there's a posture that is required to hear wisdom because Proverbs 2:2 told you, incline your ear. So am I postured to hear up? Or am I not able to hear up because I love hearing down? Let me go further. Isaiah 55:9 says, as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my thoughts higher than your thoughts, and so are my ways higher than your ways. So now hearing up makes sense, because everything wisdom is going to speak will always be spoken from a higher level than where you live. And a lot of us cannot hear wisdom because we're down here And God is saying, my class is upstairs. Have you ever really considered why airplanes fly at such high altitudes? 30, 40,000 feet. It's because they don't want their course or their flight pattern to be disturbed by smaller aircraft or small objects. So to avoid small things, the plane gotta go higher. Are you with me? Ooh, y'all know this good. Y'all better tell me it's good if you want some more. So regardless of what wisdom is trying to teach you, if you're hearing too low, the class will always be disturbed by small things, irrelevant things, things that don't matter. You ever been in a zone, you finally left the house right, and you in your zone, and then some idiot call you to did you hear they cussed Sally out today? Did you hear about that? And immediately you want that tea. That tea hot. Hot, hot, hot. That tea so hot. You left right. You left the house good. You was soaring at 30,000 feet, ready to miss all the small objects that might try to get in the way of what wisdom is saying. And all of a sudden, you know good. That's why your phone got caller ID. You knew good and well when you saw the name what they were going to do. But your ear, if it's not inclined, you will be addicted to hearing low. And if it sounds like, if you know that name is a gossip carrier, I need that tea. I don't want no sugar in it. I just want the tea. Because if you're not postured to hear up, you can't help but live down. I'm the kind of person where, this is real, I can be in a room with 50 people. And honest to God, I won't have a clue what none of them talking about. Unless they specifically say, hey, what do you think about this? Or hey, let me talk. I really won't. I won't have a clue. And it's because over the years, my ear has been trained to hear up. So my ear is trained to listen at things above me. My ear is not declined to pick up everything just because it makes a sound or because it's saying words. My ear don't gravitate to that. It just won't. So I'll be just somewhere else listening, trying to grab what I need. Here's what you don't understand. When you make a habit of hearing everything that's saying words or making a sound, or you make a habit of eavesdropping or ear hustling, you lose your ability to recognize the higher sound that you need to hear in order to live your life successfully on a daily basis. What is successful living day to day? It's not money, cars, houses, none of that. It is me living out what God intended for me to do that day. Mark 4:24 in the New International Version, translation, Jesus says, carefully consider what you hear. That's Jesus now. Carefully consider what you hear? Why? Because what I hear determines what I learn. And if my objective and my heart's desire is to learn wisdom, then what must I be listening to? Things that will make me wise. So the writer in the second and third verse, in brutal honesty, he starts describing wisdom as going to extreme measures if that's what's required to get our attention. If you look in there in the second and third verse, you'll see it. He starts describing wisdom as standing all on top of buildings, shouting, hanging all out, soliciting in front of the gates, standing all in front of the city, acting up, cutting up. That's how the Bible describes wisdom. He describes wisdom as going to aggressive measures to get our attention. Why is he on the top of the building? Why is she on the top of the building and in the front of the gates and at the entry of the city? Because the Bible is trying to help us understand that wisdom is always presenting herself in obvious places where we cannot miss her. And if we miss her, it's only because we chose to override her. She all out there cutting up. In fact, it's amazing because wisdom is willing to abandon her own nature and act like a fool so we don't have to be one. Did you hear the oxymoron in that? Wisdom is willing to abandon her own nature of being wise and act like a fool so we don't have to be one. Wisdom, she's desperate. She's all out in front of the city with picket signs saying, "Oh, you simple, understand knowledge. Oh, you fools, understand wisdom." She's in the front of everything we do. In fact, she's surrounded everything we do with signs that say, "Please, please, please understand the necessity of wisdom in your life." So why don't we listen to her? Well, Proverbs 1:7 tells us, Proverbs 1:7 says, fools despise wisdom. Now, I'm trying to show you the connection because wisdom is acting out, calling us fools. And we're saying if wisdom doing all this to get our attention, how come we ain't listening? Well, wisdom already said we were fools. And now Proverbs 1:7 is telling us why we don't really listen to wisdom. And it says because fools despise wisdom. A fool is a person who has terrible judgment. Despise means I don't think it's really all that good. I really don't like it very much. So what it's saying is when a person is a fool, they really don't like wisdom. Now, none of us would say that. In fact, some of us probably after last Sunday, you might have found yourself once or twice calling yourself asking God for wisdom. Oh, but the fruit will always betray the tree. And even if the tree want to call itself an apple, the lemons that it bear will say, "Tree, you lying, you know you a lemon tree." The fruit will always betray the tree and tell you what it is. Am I right? So you got to ask yourself this question. Am I approaching my life from the philosophy that says, I don't like wisdom very much. Now, God knows these answers already, right? So sometimes you just got to be, it ain't like you're going to offend God, but you bring deliverance to yourself by just saying, that's where I'm at right now. So once I diagnose it, then I know what medicine to take. If I lie to myself, I might take the wrong medicine or the right medicine for the wrong thing. So you got to ask yourself, do I approach my life with that philosophy that says I despise wisdom? When I hear wisdom, when I hear a better way than my own, I get a little bit offended. I get a little hot around the collar. I start sweating a little bit, and I tend to lean towards a negative reaction before I do a positive. That's what you got to ask yourself. Do I fit the bill? Is that the philosophy that I approach life with? And then here's what you got to ask yourself that'll help you turn the corner after you get the answer for that. You got to ask yourself, why am I so committed to what's not working? Okay, I don't really like wisdom, but yet I'm committed to a system in my life that's not producing the results that I want. So why am I so committed to what is not working? And how many more mistakes do I have to make because I am so committed to doing things my way? How many more mistakes do I have to make, and how many more good opportunities do I have to miss, and how many more failed relationships do I have to walk away from because I am so committed to doing things my own way? And if we can go further, I have to ask myself, why am I so committed to doing things my own way when wisdom is so committed to not teaching me a better way, but teaching me the best way? You ever thought about it? Wisdom is not trying to teach you a better way, a better option. No, wisdom is trying to teach you the best option, because wisdom, by definition, is insight into how to deal with my reality that goes beyond what can be humanly explained or figured out. So again, wisdom knows what to do with every scenario I face in my life. That's what wisdom wants to do. And if wisdom can promise me that kind of lifestyle, why don't we embrace her? Well, do you remember the description of wisdom? Her price is far above rubies. Well, you ever wanted something but it cost too much? You wanted it. You would walk by and eye it down like, yeah, I want that, but it cost too much. You wanted it, but you could not embrace it. You could not take it with you because the price was too high. Well, Proverbs describes wisdom as being far above not only rubies and jewels and expensive things, but everything you can desire. The issue we have with embracing wisdom is the fact she cost us too much. Wait a minute, but last week you told us in James that God gives wisdom free. You're absolutely right. Wisdom is free, but to apply wisdom will cost you everything. It's free, Paula. Wisdom, God give you all the wisdom in the world, and it won't cost you a dime. But soon as you get ready to apply wisdom, to use wisdom, to appropriate wisdom in your life, it will cost you every single thing. And the highest price tag on it is offense. Wisdom will offend you. Because the Bible just described wisdom as being very aggressive and borderline disrespectful. Wisdom calling folks simple, stupid, fool, and everything else in the book that we would fight people over. We don't fight the book, we just don't open it up to that page. And because of wisdom's aggressive nature, she can be offensive. And she will, without apology, dismantle completely tear up the way you do things and will make you acknowledge that the idea you thought was good really was stupid. No, she'll tell you that. She'll tell you that. And a lot of people cannot handle that because we have told ourselves we were smart, intelligent, we got game, we street smart, I got a high IQ, I got this and that. And yeah, you're right, you have all of those things, but if you remember last week, the Bible said wisdom wants to promote you. So wisdom will say, yeah, you're smart, but you're not smart enough. Yeah, you're intelligent, but you're not intelligent enough. And I'm not trying to leave you at smart. I'm trying to make you wise so you'll know what to do with the smarts you have. And a lot of people cannot put all of those qualities on the shelf and learn from wisdom because their self-worth is tied up in all of that stuff. You think you're such and much because you got a certificate, or because you got this, or because you got that, or because your smart ways have gotten you through life, or your street smart and game got you through life, and everything about you is tied up into that. And for you to put that down, you don't know how to live without your self-induced accolade. And it's offensive to the human nature to hear that my idea, how's my idea not good? I've been doing it like this the whole time. See, last week, God told us he would give us wisdom. And he said that he would give us a whole lot of it. He told us how much, but he didn't tell you how he would give it to you. Did you catch that? He told us how much he would give, but he did not tell us how he would give it. Can you handle wisdom if it doesn't come from God's audible voice? Can you handle wisdom if it's coming through a person? Remember, wisdom is aggressive. Remember, wisdom is dogmatic and unorthodox. Wisdom will call you simple in a heartbeat. Wisdom will call you a fool. It's one thing to read it in the book, but what if God is giving you wisdom through a person, through the same technique? See, this is where the price goes up, isn't it? Can God give you wisdom through a person? Can he give you wisdom through a husband? Can he give you wisdom through a wife? Can he give you wisdom through a child? Can he give you wisdom through your child? Do you know sometimes that person right back there with the bushy hair, my daughter, God has spoken through her so many times in ways I was convicted just as much as God would have. Don't get a big head, Janiyah. But he has. Can he give? He told you he would give you as much as you want, but he didn't say how. What if he's giving you this version of wisdom through a person? Can you handle this kind of wisdom through a person telling you that the idea you thought was good was not? Or you get mad at them because your ear is not inclined to hear wisdom from a higher level than the person God is using to give it to you. I'm going to close with this. I got to say this. Don't stop me. I got to get this, and I'm going to wrap it up. I had another verse, but we ain't going to get to it. This is what I was borderline not going to even put this in the message because God hit me in the chest, man. And truthfully, I'm still trying to process it. But he told me to share it with you. This is what God rounded this thing out with me, and I want you to consider this. God spoke into my spirit, and he said, if you could see what all you could have had in comparison to what you've settled for, it will blow your mind. Now watch this. Watch this. I'm going to say that again. I need y'all to catch. Good, man, that's why I feel like shout, but I'll scare y'all. That thing hit me. I mean, listen. He said, if you could see what all you could have had in comparison to what you have settled for, it would blow your mind. And then he unpacked it. And he said, what you could have had is referencing what wisdom could have gotten for you. What you've settled for is what all you got for yourself. Y'all, that sent me into a whirlwind. What could we have had if we had have allowed wisdom to get it for us? And what all have we settled for because we got it for ourselves? Half of what you got for yourself, you didn't know what you was getting because you couldn't see into it. You didn't even know how it was supposed to work 10 years down the line, or if it could work for your life down the line. You just made decisions based off what human could explain. It looked good. It got a broad shoulders. I want it. She tall, she short. It's big, this, that, the third. And that's all you saw was what could be humanly explained, the presentation of it. But wisdom could have showed you down the line. It looked good now, but it's not going to look good later. Now, the good news is when we talk about what we could have had, we think, well, those moments, they've gone and come. No, God is saying if you tap into the same wisdom, whatever you missed, you'll know what to do with it when it comes back around. All right, I said I was done. Last scripture, and I'm finished. Okay, I promise you. I just need to, Proverbs 6. I'm not going to even expound on it. How about that? I just need to read this because I need you to see it. All right, Proverbs 6, and then I'm done. I promise you that's my word. Proverbs 6 and 23. Do you have it? All right, watch this. Look at this. For the commandment is a what? The instruction is a what? And the law is light. And watch this, reproofs, you know what that means? Corrections of instructions are the way what? How am I going to live my life? I'm not going to live it without being instructed. I'm not going to live it without wisdom making corrections on my plan, even though my plan in my own eyes was wonderful, okay? So it's a part of life. Okay, so you got to be able to expect that. You got to know that, and you got to know wisdom is dogmatic, aggressive, and sometimes crazy. So be expecting it. Amen. All right. God bless you. I'm done. Well, there you have it, folks. I trust that you are encouraged to be intentional about making room for wisdom to exist in your life. Truly hoping that teaching inspired you to do just that. I know it's hard. I know it can be sometimes a little bit tight and topsy-turvy because life just happens. But it's worth the fight. It's worth the diligence. Wisdom can be defined as insight into your reality that goes beyond what can be humanly explained or figured out. Can you imagine just for a moment what it would be like to have that kind of wisdom working on your behalf on a daily basis? Or what about you having the ability and the skill to know how to deal with everything life throws at you, whether good, bad, or indifferent? Well, you can have it. It's all yours. But the prerequisite is, do you desire wisdom as much as wisdom desires you? Until next time, grace and peace.